Hello, everybody, and welcome to Planet FPL, the world where everything revolves around Euro 2024. My name is Clayton,
My name is James.
and is it coming home, James?
Well, we were just discussing off camera if we should just begin this podcast by just the two of us laughing like hyenas
But
in the background following yesterday's latest farce of how to hand England a trophy, or at least try to. Belgium also decided they don't want to win this competition. And then Portugal decided to give it the West Ham special and have their bellies tickled as well. And now we haven't even got to play the Netherlands.
this is
Um,
absolutely crazy. Yeah, speechless. But I don't want to be perceived as the arrogant English, of
Yeah,
course.
we're not going to be able to avoid it. Yeah,
But
people
you
are
will
going to
be
say that.
hearing us singing "It's Coming Home."
We absolutely know that England have been by far the most entertaining team in the group stage of the competition, and will win these next four games with relative ease, probably by sizable goal margins. We obviously don't mean that. Our confidence on beating anybody at the moment is actually on the floor, but at the same time, we can't help but look and go, "Oh my God, what has happened here with
Yeah,
the draw is quite remarkable." Um,
we do
in
know
fact,
that.
let's start with the draw rather than our
Yeah,
Euro fantasy, just because we're discussing it. So the way it's going to break down now is obviously Germany play Denmark, Spain play Georgia. Those two winners will meet in the quarterfinal. Portugal will now play Slovenia. France, runners up, will play runners up Belgium. That's the top half of the draw. England, we now know, will play Slovakia rather than the Netherlands, which I think most of us probably going into the evening kickoffs assumed it would be the Netherlands.
yeah.
In fact, probably most of yesterday assumed
Said
it
it was
would
like a
probably,
70% chance, wasn't
what it was this
it?
time
Yeah.
yesterday was 70% chance it would be the Netherlands. It's not, it's Slovakia. Switzerland, we knew would play Italy. Romania's reward for being the unlikely group winners is to play the unlikely third place team in the Netherlands, and Austria will face Turkey. So it could be Netherlands and Austria meet again in the quarterfinals, having just met in the group. So one of those last eight teams I mentioned is going to be in the final of this.
Yeah.
Um, and I think outside of England, for those who were tipping us up, nobody probably would have said much of the other seven teams making it
No,
towards the final. Listen, Slovakia is still going to be a challenge for us
of
on
course.
Sunday, because every game feels like a challenge at the moment. And whether it's Italy or Switzerland, and whichever one of those other four, if we're lucky enough to make it a semi-final, is still going to be a challenge. But the fact that we've missed the other four favourites in this competition, cannot play any of them till the final, and you've decided to throw Belgium to the other side as well, and we now can't meet the Dutch till the semis, and suspect there's every chance they won't even get that far. Yeah, it is. You can understand. We spoke on our Patreon pod yesterday. I spoke about people getting like their piss boiled because of England having another lucky draw. We have to say it is.
Oh
It
yeah,
is, because if
yeah,
we'd landed in the top half of the draw, we the only thing we're talking about now is which game are we
yeah. When are
losing?
we leaving?
Yeah,
Yeah,
basically.
exactly.
So that's why it feels like we've got a chance. But the other seven teams on our side of the draw, Clates, will also think the same.
Yeah, yeah. Of course they will. Yeah, I don't.
Also think the
I
same.
don't. I don't think people on this side of the draw will be fearing England per se either. So
Nah.
it's yeah, but it's nice now that like yeah, groups are done. You can start plotting from a fantasy perspective, which we'll kind of touch on tomorrow on the Diff show. You can start plotting your teams for the knockout games and everything. But from a fantasy perspective, how did you get on?
Have you just quickly, have you looked at putting the team together for?
Not yet, actually. No.
No. And are you wildcard quarter final?
Yes, sir.
Because
I
that's most
am.
likely
Are
me
you?
as well. Anything is if all my players go through, you might go, well, just roll with it again, possibly.
Yeah.
The only thing I'd say is I think the way it's broken down, you'd want to go probably three Spain, three Portugal, certainly some Germany coverage, arguably three. You are going to want some England coverage, even if it's just
Yeah.
probably one defensive,
Defense.
maybe, but there's every chance free. You probably still want to put Mbappe in, because Belgium look very vulnerable defensively to me. And make sure you have some coverage from the last two games, which is Romania, Netherlands, and Austria, Turkey, from a captaincy perspective, because none of us can hit a bloody captain anyway. So you
No.
probably need something on the last day, which probably does link quite nicely to Clayton. How was your Euro fantasy limitless? Give everybody a proper giggle, mate.
On Limitless, I got a whopping 42 points
What a
with,
banger.
with a captaincy of 2 points from Cristiano Ronaldo.
Boom.
I also happened to take out three players yesterday. Works Musiala and it's escaped me. The third one
Erasable.
for Arazabal from Spain. I put in Cristiano Ronaldo, Pedro Neto, and Nico Semedo, his cousin. So I lost out on my points with who I took out.
For three
My
players on for three blankers, and you were
my
2 points worse off.
my only returns, and I'm not including 3 points as a
That
return
includes the
in this.
captaincy.
My- I'm not including 3 pointers as a return. So my only returnees were Donnarumma's 8 points, Grimaldo's 8 points, and Carl Walker's 7.
I'm actually doing.
Subscribe to Planet FPL.
I'm actually doing you a disservice by saying that the subs you made yesterday made you 2 points worse off. That's actually not true, is it? It's actually 6 points worse off because
Oh,
you
because
had
of the
captaincy on
captain on
Saka.
Saka. Yeah. Oh, thanks for that.
Well, you should have stuck on
Mate.
Saka.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I mean, it's been not great for many people. It's been better for me, Clay. Sorry to rub it in.
No, go
Not that
for
it's
it.
been particularly outstanding, but 62 points for me. Sorry, 67 points for me.
Nice.
No, 62 points. I was right the first time. 62 points for me this week. Donnarumma, you had Donnarumma as well, didn't you? Donnarumma and
Mhm.
Grimaldo, you both had. I also had Mark Gay
Oh, nice.
versus you had Cole Walker, didn't
Carl
you?
Walker, yeah.
Yeah.
What did Gay get? 8.
A ball recovery monster, most in the
Yeah.
group stage, any player.
Wow.
Uh, Timothy Castagna, 8. Kevin De Bruyne's booed man of the match award yesterday for a 6 pointer. And Ferran Torres, 9.
Nice.
Put me on 62. I'll tell you what is nice about it. It doesn't feel like a great return off a limitless. I obviously ended up on the Kaku captain yesterday. I say obviously, I was just the obvious captaincy blank. But I tell you, it was nice. Just before we started, I had a glance back at the team I had in match day 2. See, like, oh shit, who did I take out and who returned? One player from the 15 players I had. One of those 15 returned.
Oh,
That
wow.
that was
That
Wout Fass's clean sheet yesterday. And he only got a 6 pointer yesterday, and I went with Castagna and he got an 8.
nice. Okay. You feel vindicated then.
So at least we can say the limitless was vindicated on that. I mean, I would have had, I mean, I would have made a cut of transfers, no doubt, but I had 15 players who would have all blanked.
Yeah. Jesus. I
Um,
don't want to go and look at mine because I don't think it'll be the same.
which is I think it's a summary of the fantasy game. I was also thinking like if you put together like a team of the tournament so far, I think you'd be putting in a number of players who are not the
Star
star
names.
players. I mean,
Yeah.
if I said you player of the tournament right now, who do you say?
That's a really tough one. I actually don't know.
Where do you even go with that?
Yeah, I don't know. It's
What?
been yeah,
What?
it's been so varied in terms
It's
of
Gareth
performance.
Southgate, isn't it? It's just man of the
Masterclass,
tournament so
yeah.
far. I'm sure some people will develop during the knockout stage that give us clarity. But even think like Jamal Musiala, first two look great, a quiet
Yeah.
game against Switzerland. So your Georgian boy up front, 3 goals and an assist.
Yeah.
That's the don't get enabling forwards. Don't waste your money at the back. You should have got
He
the
was
5 million Georgian
phenomenal
forward.
last night as well.
Mikautadze, is it? Is that the correct
Yeah.
pronunciation? I'm just going to test you here, Clayton.
Yeah, that well, it looks like it reads well.
Yeah, okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Have you learned how to say Carvaccelia yet?
Is it Carl? I thought it was Varach. I don't know. Yeah.
I'll bow
Apologies for
to
my
your superior
mispronunciation.
knowledge, mate.
No, it's not. I'll go with yours.
Um, yeah, not great, but I think that's summed up. A lot of people probably feel a bit flat about the fantasy aspects of this. Again, I'd probably urge caution. I said this after the first match day. Is like a lot of the players who blanked in match day 1 probably won't blank in match day 2, and that proved to be quite a lot of the case. I feel like a lot of people have had a lot of blankers here again.
Yeah.
There's some really good fixtures
Yeah.
in the
Can
last
make up the
16.
ground still. Where does that put you overall, your 67 points?
Oh,
Because you were doing all right yesterday. I think you were like 8K or something?
18K
18K.
now. So yeah, not terrible. 53rd in the Planet FPL mini league out of 772. So I suppose that's not too bad. I've got experience of the format, haven't I, playing
Yeah.
UCL fantasy. So I'm at advantage to most, and obviously having that wild card left at this stage is beneficial. But as I said, the way the draw now works out, I mean, if you let's just give you an example. Let's say you gambled heavily on England and say the Netherlands, which is plausible to take that sort of route. If they both go through, the wild card far away from it, considering the way the draws worked out now.
I guess it's more from the other side, right? If you gamble on like your Germany, Spain's, France, Portugal, and one of them go out, then you probably need to take out
Yeah,
six or
I
so.
suppose it'd be things like if you go like treble Portugal, which would be certainly conceivable in the next stage, despite their rotated team getting beat last night. If they didn't walk into France, you're going to
Yeah.
think, ah. But what I'd probably say to people as a little bit of advice is don't just go activating the wild card.
No,
Because
not
say you
straight.
take that route early on, you go, well, I'm definitely wild carding, and then Belgium beat France, for example. You might think, well, hold on to them Portugal players, for example. Um, Say you gamble heavily on Spain and then Germany lose to Denmark, you might go, well, keep with them, for example. It might be you might not land far enough away, and
Yeah.
those ties in the quarterfinals might still be competitive enough that you may just want to hold on
When would you
one
use
more
it
to the
then?
semis.
If you didn't need it, just go all in on the semis, all in on the
Well, I
final.
think what I mean is it's conceivable that realistically in this format, you're not going to go picking. You could still go with like your Georgian enablers, for example, right? But the chance are they're probably going to go out. You're probably with the extra 5 million budget or so, you're probably not going down that route now
No.
that you're going to play Spain. So listen, if you went for three, and obviously you can go for four now, can you? You can go from four from one team, I think,
Yeah, you
can't you?
can.
Yeah. So if you went for four Spain and four Portugal, and suddenly they both lose to Georgia and Slovenia respectively, right? Well, that wild card's going to become extremely bloody handy for you, isn't it?
Yeah.
If they both go through and then you fancy them to win again, there's a case maybe to wait. You're obviously not waiting any longer than the semi-final.
No.
Someone will end up playing their wild card in the final. I'd see it every time that this comes around.
Yeah.
I
And
wouldn't advise that sort of thing.
for anyone that hasn't used their limitless yet, when would you recommend they look at using that?
I mean, now would have been ideal.
Yeah, but you get
Um,
to change your whole team
But
anyway, right?
I'm thinking about this as well, and you think some of the matchups coming up. I think particularly later in the tournament as well. I mean, how much are you gonna need financially? I mean, for example, right now you'd know that Mbappe and Ronaldo aren't both making the semi-final
Yeah, true.
because even if they win their games, they'll meet in the quarter final. So once you start taking them premium forwards out, let's just say England did lose in this round. I mean, that's knocking out Kane, Bellingham. There's a lot of very reasonably priced players within the likes of Spain setup. I mean,
Yep.
you can have Williams and Yamal for like 13.5 or something. Morata's not an unreasonable price. I don't think money will be too much of a problem for people here. I think people will end up doing things where you might go for Cancelo rather than something like Pepe,
Yeah.
which, and we said yesterday, like with the attacking fullbacks, it's not really worked yet in this
Yeah, it's
tournament.
more the
That
centre
might
backs in this
flip,
one.
but I just think people might land and be like, well, I can pay the 1 million more for Cancelo. I'll go for that sort of thing. I can afford to go for Teo Hernandez over Kunde, these little bits. I think people will be able to afford to do those things. I
Yeah.
think
Yeah, I think you're right as well.
there's enough cheap players available. I mean, like Mittelsat's still going to be that cheap,
Yeah.
isn't he? Is there a reason to force it in? I mean, Germany have potentially got a few defensive issues going into that game on Saturday. Jonathan
Oh,
Tah's suspended, um, and Antonio Rudiger is a doubt
do you
as
want to do a
well.
suspension run through before we go through the games?
Yeah, you sent very kindly sent me a little list of players suspended, and I must say I was expecting to see about 8 Turkey players on that list following the
That was
game last
mental,
night.
wasn't
Well, I knew that they'd had 16 players have been booked, but I think that does include maybe some coaching staff and some
it?
unused
Okay.
substitutes and stuff. I mean, the referee lost that game completely last night. I feel like that's the first time it's really happened
Yeah.
in the tournament.
I
Actually,
was watching the Portugal game, to be fair, so I was just seeing clips.
ironically, the two teams that we spent the majority of time thinking about yesterday, Slovakia and the Netherlands, are the two teams with the fewest yellow cards so far, with two. Suspensions. Morten Hjulmand will be a miss for Denmark in midfield. That's obviously Pierre-Emil Højbjerg's partner for that Germany-Denmark game at the weekend. Tara, as I said, suspended. Patrick Wimmer is suspended for Austria, not a guaranteed starter in any case. Ricardo Calafiori, obviously the brilliant assist
Wow, I
for the
forgot about
Croatia
him.
goal, stepping out against Croatia. stepping out from centre back. He's suspended for Italy's game with Switzerland. Nikosor Banshu is suspended for Romania. Eric Jansa of Slovenia is suspended. There are two Turkey players that are suspended for that tie with Austria. They're quite important ones. Samet Akaydin, who was the star of that magnificent own goal against Portugal in match day 2. But the bigger one is that key man, really, Hakan Çalhanoğlu. He's suspended for the game against Austria. I have to say, on what I've seen of Austria in this tournament, and I watched all of Turkey last night, I wouldn't say that there's only one winner in that match, but I would be surprised if Turkey beat Austria. Yeah.
Wow, fair play. Austrian assets for me, then.
Yeah, I would be surprised. But to go back to that point, because we discussed that yesterday, didn't we? We said we'd maybe touch on Austria assets. The keeper's 4 million.
Is
we know. Yeah, I had him in one of the games. I had him against Poland. But the other ones like Baumgartner, Sabitzer are like 6.5. Are you going to need to go there? Arnautovic up front is 7.
Yeah,
and I think he's a kind of a minute's concern in terms of how much you'll get out of him. I don't know if there's a need to go down that route. That's all.
Based on your confidence in them more than anything, I could see them getting to the semis.
I think there's some really nice ties in the last 16, but do you know which one is the closest one in the betting markets at the moment?
In the betting markets, I don't know. I'm guessing it's one on the French side of the draw.
It's not.
Oh. I don't know.
It's Switzerland, Italy.
Wow.
It's the closest one as far as the bookmakers are concerned at the moment in terms of who will qualify for the quarterfinals. So I think for the other 7 ties, I think you'll get quite a mix on that. But I think for the other 7 ties, most of us will come to very similar conclusions on who will go through. I am absolutely certain that one of them won't.
Oh, yeah.
At least.
Always happens.
At least. Pre-tournament, we all do the same thing, don't we? And we're going to play them there and them there and and guess what? England's just going to end up with a lucky fluky draw anyway afterwards. So, I mean, that's what we'll do. Next time, before the World Cup, we'll sit down, Clates, and we'll map out before the group stage, what's the easiest possible scenario that England could have on the way to winning old Jules Rimet, mate.
Let's not get carried away.
There'll be a shock where someone faces one of these low blocks or something and ends up on penalties and doesn't win or something. And guess who that might be?
Yeah, probably England.
But probably needs to slice the onto games. I don't think Slovakia is necessarily the game that people think it will be. I think people hear Slovakia and think that'll be a low block. That'll be frustrating. Okay. And there will certainly be periods of the game where we have a lot of the ball and they sit quite deep. But we saw this in match day 1 against Belgium. This is quite an aggressive team, actually. I liked what I saw of them. They had good chances in the first half against Belgium, despite scoring really early. It's worth saying, before they scored really early against Belgium, Belgium already should have been 1 up. And the one conclusion we had off the Belgium-Slovakia game was, on a different day, Belgium had enough chances to win the game.
Comfortably, yeah.
They're quite aggressive off the ball. They go with more of a 4-1-4-1. Okay. And their midfielders like to press and jump. Their wide players will come from out to in to come and press. And they'll happily go off of like one of their 8s will go and press in against the centre back and stuff as well. Now, whether they do that against an opponent like England is obviously more difficult to gauge, but I don't think it's going to be what people will necessarily just think in their heads. There's also a danger here that they're probably better than certainly what I'd given them pre-tournament. And it's difficult to draw conclusions off the game yesterday because ultimately the two teams have obviously settled for what they got. But not to give them a disservice, because in the first half of the match yesterday, there were 16 shots on goal. Both teams posted a decent XG. Admittedly, Romania's came from a penalty, which I thought was a fairly controversial award.
I've not seen that one.
They kind of gave it for second contact.
Okay.
There was a challenge. I think it was on Hadji who came into the team. I might have that wrong. I was watching the Ukraine-Belgium game. But he's got his foot trodden on. Definite foul. But then after that happens, there's a second collision where they meet legs, which is then in the box. I'm not sure that should have
Okay.
been overturned. For
Yeah, I need to
it was
watch
given
that.
on field outside the box. I'm not sure that should have been overturned, as you probably talk about another penalty overturn in a little bit as well. Um, they've got some good players. Slovakia, Milan Skriniar at centre back is a player that we've been really impressed with. I mean, if you were talking, we mentioned about players of the tournament in terms of putting a team together at the moment. So not suggesting player of the tournament, but Stanislav Lobotka has been one of the best sixes I've seen in this tournament.
Yeah,
He's
it's
a
been
really
very
good
good.
player in midfield. David Hanko at left back. He's a
My
player.
boy.
He's your boy, isn't he? I presume you'll be picking him in
Maybe
your
not.
Euro fantasy team. Clates, it's only England. Go with your boy, right?
Do you know what? I might have to actually, yeah.
We're familiar with Kucher and Duda, although I think I saw their combined age is 90. Obviously not quite 90, but the older gentlemen. We know Martin Dubravka in goal. Ivan Schranz scored in the first two games. They're not they're definitely better than what I thought they were going into the tournament. And if there is a perception that it's just going to be a low block, I can't promise you that that's not how the game will evolve and become if England really dominate the ball and are
Yeah.
also very slow at moving it. But this team's a bit more aggressive than people might realize.
Interesting. And do you think on the counter they'll be like quick with how they kind of counter against us?
There'll be a big threat from set plays. That was something that was certainly identified pre-tournament. I was watching in the first half hour. I was primarily watching Ukraine, Belgium, but I was here in the office with Nico, and we had a split screen on watching both. And actually, he spotted some interesting things that they were doing on set plays, including signals. Suj would be well happy. There was one signal that looked like they were giving it the old irons at a corner. So I don't know if Suj might have split loyalties going into Sunday. Reality, strip all that away. Should England beat them on Sunday? There's no question about that. But it might not be the slog that the others have been,
Yeah. Okay.
particularly if we score early this time.
Hopefully.
I've just we've done that twice already, and that has proved to still be the case. But yeah, look, if England can't, despite saying some positives about them, if England cannot beat them, then they deserve all
Then there's
the,
huge.
and we
Yeah.
deserve, you arrogant, we deserve everything that comes our way if we don't win the football match.
Yeah.
For Romania, outstanding achievement to win
Topping
the
the
group.
group. Yeah. Unbelievable.
Um, I
All
know
teams on 4 points in that group.
I spoke to, I know everyone's been, Callan, by the way, would like to express his real gratitude to all the feedback he's had from Monday's podcast. I spoke to him before the game yesterday, and he was really vexed that if Romania finished second in the group, they were going to play France. It's like, this is a big injustice.
Yeah.
But I reshared his tweet last night. He is absolutely thrilled that they've won the group. He genuinely didn't give them too much hope. They have pleasantly surprised and made the people there quite proud. And they've surprised all of us. They've got
Yeah.
some decent
Massively.
players there in the top end. Marin's obviously scored the penalty. It was like nearly 100 mile an hour on his penalty.
Was it?
Yeah, apparently they
Whoa.
showed that in the ground, and it was just under 100 mile an hour. I was like, you ain't. It's definitely one of those you don't see those.
Yeah.
Hadji came in the
Rocket.
team on the right hand side of the pitch. I think we can see that there's quite a bit about Nikolai Stanchu, who the FPL community had identified quite a bit about in pre-tournament. They are massively unfortunate, despite concerns about the Dutch. They are extremely unfortunate that that's the third place team that they are playing, though.
Yeah.
The reality is, it was, I mean, the other teams that could have played Netherlands, Slovenia, or Georgia. I mean, if you're asking which one they wanted, it wasn't the Netherlands,
No.
quite frankly. And you do have this interesting outcome now where you've got a team who's finished third will play a group winner, and the team that's finished third are going to be massive favourites. I mean, the
Yeah.
Dutch themselves have massively lucked out
Yeah.
to
They
flip
have.
that by the fact that they're getting Romania. I think it's worth saying these two teams obviously ultimately did settle for the draw in the end, particularly. I mean, there was no reason for Romania to go for it with what Belgium were doing, as we'll talk about in a second. And I think Slovakia were on the edge, knowing that they were going to be quite happy to go through, because obviously if Belgium did score against Ukraine, which I suppose they may well have thought in their minds that might happen, then obviously if they'd have lost, Ukraine would have finished above them on the head to head, and they'd have ended up finishing bottom of the group. So listen, Slovakia beat Belgium.
Yeah.
They'll know they can beat England.
Of course. Yeah.
But I would be staggered if Belgium beat France.
Yeah, so would I. They've every tournament, I just feel like they're massively underwhelmed. And even, yeah, I don't know. I know it's a different crop of players, but even this lot, I thought they're capable of more. But who knows? You never know. They could surprise us all in the knockouts. What was this game like? Ukraine nil, Belgium nil.
Um, Not a thriller, but I'd also watched England the night before, so it didn't feel that bad to me actually. Ukraine did something tactically which Belgium couldn't really deal with.
What was it?
So they went with more of a two up front in Dovbyk and Yaremchuk, and I'm not suggesting this is the way to go and beat Belgium because most people won't necessarily do that. But it obviously pinned them back a little bit. And what they also did though was they pushed Sudakov and Brajko ahead of Shaparenko and played them like two kind of wide eights. And Belgium's only solution to their surprise at that was to retreat. And again, sitting here with Nico, and even Nico's going, "Oh my god, they're so easy to play through Belgium."
Wow.
Um, that was their solution because they couldn't work out how to deal with how Ukraine were playing out. Now that is extremely concerning.
Big
Ukraine
time.
are obviously unfortunate to be going out on 4 points, but they give themselves too much to do from that first game.
Yeah.
It really did. With the goal difference was always going to be something that was going to put them in a real jeopardy where they had to get the 4 points at a minimum. They kind of knew that. Yes, they've got four, but they also went into this final group game knowing they had to win. Sudakov, who was the community's darling going into the tournament, who most
Stunk.
of us been, was much better yesterday,
Was he?
by the way.
Okay.
And he should have scored for them in injury time. He's had one little mazy run where Belgium just parted like an open sea, mate. And he's walked through them and he's hit it straight at Castells. It wasn't like a glaring miss, but once it opened up for him, he went, he
You
should
thought,
score here.
yeah.
And obviously Ukraine I felt played the game quite well because what you didn't want to do was open up against, you've got Doku and Lukaku on the break and De Bruyne's ability to find them and stuff. So they give Belgium a real tactical problem, but it didn't open up too soon. I felt like they got the balance right of when to go for it. But then it was really clear, obviously, going into the final 10 minutes, they were going for it.
Yeah.
And you're watching the game. Certainly, I was thinking this is an absolute inevitability that Belgium will win this game.
Oh, really?
Inevitability. Because of all you got to do is get De Bruyne on the ball and just send them away. And they just kept getting the final ball wrong when they broke away. And then ultimately, when it got to injury time, they settled for playing France.
Really?
I
Wow,
mean,
that
look,
is.
it's a balance, right? Ukraine have got to score. If Ukraine score, Belgium finish bottom of the group, they are out. They're going
Yeah.
to know at this point. Once you'd get word, Slovakia and Romania still a draw with 10 minutes to go. Right, that's finishing
Yeah,
the
you
draw.
start to
Right,
panic a little bit.
you're doing one of a couple of things here. You're either winning and winning the group, you're either drawing and finish second, or you're finishing fourth and it's over.
Yeah.
So I get the indecisiveness and the imbalance, but I actually think that the way the game opened up, they should have been good enough to take advantage of that in the closing stages,
Yeah.
and they weren't. I think this has, with respect to the other teams, I think this is quite a weak group. I think France is a bad matchup for them in the sense that France won't open up to allow their pacey players like Doku the freedom to have isolated 1v1 incidents on transition. I wouldn't be surprised if it's a bad game of football. I mean that. I know it's
I
the one
don't,
that I know it's the one people probably be looking forward to the most. I wouldn't be surprised if it's a real kind of chess match game of football. And ultimately, if it comes back to that, France are probably the best defense in this tournament, and Belgium, I think they'll get exposed.
yeah, it'll be interesting to see that, like the transition thing, because I remember watching the France-Poland game, and I don't know if it was like the type of opposition they were playing, but I remember seeing periods where Poland were kind of breaking quite fast and getting into space. So yeah, that would be interesting to see if that does happen or not.
We should have spoken about this after match day two. They obviously brought Artur Tiat into the team as the left back. He's sideshow Bob free, isn't he? If him and Wout Fast go for an aerial ball together,
So,
they've got two David Luizes in the back
yeah,
line. In between them is Jan Vertonghen, who Jan is one of the best centre backs I've ever seen at Tottenham. But Jan had to leave Tottenham 4 years ago because it was over for him, unfortunately.
yeah,
He's 37 and he's not done anything in this tournament that make me think that he's a massive problem. But I also think he's not been tested and the recovery's not there anymore. Jan's a beautiful footballer, but the best days are gone,
physically,
unfortunately.
yeah.
I, I I don't know,
You're
Andy.
concerned for him, aren't you?
I'm not concerned for him. I just don't see him beating France at all.
No, fair.
Can't see it. Despite question, if France lose to Belgium, I think it will be more because France cock it up.
Yeah, fair play.
I just think they'll have way too much for that Belgian backline. And
We
from the
got,
fancy aspect as well, like I want Mbappe.
yeah,
It's a tougher game. Others have got better fixtures. Nah,
from what you've seen, you
Mbappe.
think,
Yeah,
yeah.
there'll be moments there,
I
no
saw
doubt about
one
it.
message from a group chat yesterday saying Lukaku was having a bit of a horror show again. Is that
Yeah,
fair or is that
he
harsh?
was he was really good against Romania. Actually, we said that. Yeah, it looked more like clumsy Lukaku
Yeah.
last night. I mean, the best moment that Belgium actually had in the game was within 2 or 3 minutes, and De Bruyne put Lukaku away. He made a good run off the shoulder, didn't collect properly with the shot. That's as close as they come
Wow.
to scoring. Really, really. I don't know if you're Belgian, are you disappointed that you've got through? I mean, actually, on the face of it, with that group to
With
take
that
4 points,
group, they'll
you
be disappointed they didn't top
disappointed.
it
Look at us
100%.
going mad about England with 5 points, but
I
yeah, I
know.
think you've got to be disappointed with that. And even then, to basically to lose the first game and still have it in your hands, very much to win the group.
Yeah. Should we move on to the next one?
To,
Turkey
to
2.
land with France. If they'd have finished second and then France had played later in the day and cocked their group up, you go, oh shit, they didn't know that was going to happen. You knew going into it what you were going to walk into. So
Yeah.
that said, I'm not sure Belgium would have beat the Netherlands either. Actually,
Uh, yeah, it'll be
they
close.
would. They've gone in that tougher side. If I said to you now, Belgium will be the one that makes the final.
I'd be very surprised. Incredibly surprised.
Yeah, agree with that, mate.
On to the next
Uh,
one.
yeah. Thank you, Georgia. What a sweetheart she was last night. That was completely unexpected. You watched that, so floor is yours, mate.
Oh, I thought we were going to go with the Czech Turkey one, but yeah, we'll go Georgia,
And we'll
Portugal.
leave the fight to the end, mate.
Okay, fair. Mate, unbelievable for Georgia. It was. I'm not gonna lie. I'll get this in early. I am flabbergasted how Portugal didn't score. They did create chances. Ronaldo. I don't know if you've seen the clip of him having a strop when he was trying to claim a penalty. He was having his shirt pulled out, so he got a
Have I
booking.
seen the clip of it? I've watched it 10 times. It
Oh,
brings a
have you?
smile to my face. I'm a horrible
Yeah.
person.
What do you think of it? So for
Is that a
context,
penalty? For me,
this is
yeah, it's a
when
penalty. Yeah.
I think so as well, to be
Yeah.
fair,
Yeah.
where Ronaldo was having his shirt pulled and yeah, he just goes absolutely mental at the linesman and the ref. But not to make it about that. Georgia, I know the stats will say otherwise, but I think on the performance they deserved it and they could have scored another as well. Uh Scalia,
Good boy.
he had another chance as well where I don't know how he didn't really connect with it properly and hit it straight at the keeper, but they just defended like as compact as they could. Again, like I don't want to make out this was a defensive masterclass because if I'm being honest, I don't think it was. I do think there was a little bit of variance with Portugal's finishing, and on another day, Portugal could have scored a couple, but don't want to take away from the beauty of what happened because Georgia, like every second ball, they were pouncing out in numbers. They were compact. They broke with so much pace when they did get the opportunities to do it. And obviously, the first goal, literally, have you seen it? It comes from a mistake from Silva, just passes it straight to Georgia. They go and break. And again, like you get the ball in that position, you wouldn't automatically think, oh, it's going to end up in a goal. They still had to make the right decisions, pass it through, and great finish as well. Yeah, and then in between that, that was in the second minute. In between that, it was kind of like I wouldn't say end to end, but there wasn't any periods of anyone really sustaining or dominating the ball for sustained periods of time. Portugal did make a sub at halftime. They took off Palhinha, brought on Ruben Neves. Polina in moments, I thought his recoveries were pretty good. So I
Where,
don't
where
know.
did where did Ruben Neves play when he came on?
In centre mid,
Because I heard that he was basically primed to play as like a high eight and get ahead of the ball.
he was a little bit higher, but I wouldn't say it was anything
I mean,
unusual.
if you're not going to have him on the ball, what's the point?
Yeah. No, I didn't see anything unusual in it, to be honest. I was surprised they took Polina off though, because every now and then when Georgia players were running through, like you could see there was one tackle he made in particular. It was very much like Rice against City Community Shield, where he just kind of stretched, lunged out, got the ball recovered, and then off he went.
People only watch the Community Shield if they're in it, Clay. So we don't know what you're talking about.
I feel like that tackle people will remember because it was just clips going viral. But yeah, then after the second half, it was again like kind of end to end, half chances here and there. And then the controversial-ish penalty happened, 57th minute. I think it's a penalty.
Um, it was one. What was it in the England game? Was it Trent right near the end?
Which one
Um,
against Slovenia?
yeah, yeah. Obviously, Slovenia, Slovakia. I was going to say it's all the same. It's not the same. He went in for, and he looked like he got blocked. And it was one of them. He'd been so shit, mate. And I knew it wasn't a penalty, but just from the one angle, it might be. I'm going to shout for it anyway, because me being how many thousand miles away is going to actually matter. This is one though where you're definitely shouting for it. I think it's one of them when it happened live, you've got all that could be.
Yeah.
Um, you'd be gutted if it's given against you though. I also think it's one like if the ref give it, you're clearly not overturning it because there is contact. I would like to think if we're analysing that, we go, this guy's made a big meal of that.
Yes, but there was contact.
You want pens given for that, really? Is that what you want?
Yeah, possibly not
Yes, it
consistently.
is, because it means England have now got an easier tie on Sunday that they'll probably cock up. I was watching, obviously, the other game, and
Did you flick onto this at all this game?
and well, yeah, exactly this point, because they'd said on the commentary on the Czech Turkey game, and said, "Oh, Georgia's got a penalty," and just before that, I'd said to the missus, "I think I'm watching the wrong game here." Because obviously with the Czechs down to 10 men, you're thinking, well, if England are going to play Slovakia, it's going to be on Georgia now rather than the Czechs getting back into it. And so they said on the commentary, Georgia have got a penalty. I'm scrambling around for the remote, trying to get the little boy off me head, get off me, and trying to grab the remote. Just got it turned on in time, blinding. So then I thought, well, there's no point going back. And I thought 10 minutes later, I'll flick it back over. And I saw the Czechs score. And I was like, okay,
Ah,
right, let's get this back on then again, because Georgia would look fairly comfortable. One thing I would say though about the period in between the penalty being given and the challenge was quite long.
yeah.
In between it, Mamadashvili makes an unbelievable save from Diogo Dalot that you will probably never see again because it happened in between the instance of that penalty. It was very similar to a goal Dalot scored at Sheffield United last season, where he's
Yeah.
ended up in that central area and he's managed to get this real curve. He's going well wide. And it's probably saved the tournament. And if you haven't seen it, you're probably not going to
Yeah,
see
you're
it
not gonna
now,
see it
by the
again.
way.
Yeah, I'd actually forgotten about that to be fair.
He
Yeah.
is an extremely good goalkeeper.
Yeah.
Very good, Mamadashvili. And there's gonna be some interest in him this summer. We spoke about this with him last week as well. As I said earlier, 3 goals and assists for Mikautadze. That was the
Yeah.
forward you all wanted in Euro fantasy, and really pleased for Kvaratskhelia because
Yeah.
he's the golden boy there,
Yeah.
and I like the goal that he scores because there's real drive and determination to get in and beyond quickly,
Yeah.
rather than he can be this player who sometimes gives an air of being kind of languid and I'd like to face you up and beat you and show you how good I am in the process. No, he senses the opportunity, doesn't think twice about it, takes a beautiful first touch. And when he settles himself, each one of you think, yeah, you're good enough, you're going to score here. And
Yeah.
the finish is really nice. That is a brilliant, brilliant achievement for Georgia.
Yeah. It's
I
just the
think
scenes at the end. It's beautiful to watch.
I mean, look, it's only taken them to achieve in one tournament what Scotland still haven't managed to achieve in their lifetime. And let's get out of
Oh,
a group
he's
stage.
gone there.
I'm
He's
sorry
gone
about
there.
God. Come on, everyone was saying it last night, weren't they? Um, so did Iceland, by the way, on their first major tournament. I think we all know what happened after that in the last 16. And yes, we're doing a podcast today on Patreon today about England's defeat to Iceland in the last 16 of the Euros, which was 8 years ago today. England playing Slovakia on Sunday has no hallmarks whatsoever of England playing Iceland 8 years ago. It's an amazing achievement. I think the way the fixtures worked out here clearly worked in their favour. Even to the extent that they were the last group, there is no doubt of, well, could a draw be good enough here? Maybe. No, they knew what they had to do. They faced a second string Portugal team.
Yeah, it's worth saying there were lots of changes.
Even to the extent that I think the Czechs missed a load of chances against them in the second match day and easily could have won the game. Although admittedly, Georgia could have won it with their own counter right at the end. The Czechs yesterday cocked it up with the red card. We'll talk about in a second. Amazing achievement for Georgia. You would fall off your chair sideways if they beat Spain.
Yeah, well summarised. Yeah.
For Portugal, we shouldn't read too much into this because it is largely second string team. But
Yeah,
Costa played in goal, and he's a good goalkeeper and has got no chance on either goals. He very nearly gets to the penalty. And Ronaldo played. What do we think of that?
Well, I kind of text you when I was doing my limitless, didn't I? What did the words I used were something like, "Oh, with his ego, he'll play, won't he?" So I think it was along them lines I kind of asked. So it did not surprise me one bit that he started.
Roberto Martinez said pre-game, he said that he would have concerns if Ronaldo basically went a 9-day period without playing. So Saturday from playing Turkey all the way to they'll play obviously Slovenia now on Monday night. Okay, that's fine. I can buy that.
Yeah, same to be fair.
That didn't apply to any other outfield player though. Not a single one.
I don't know. Maybe it is different when you get older, to be fair, because he did get subbed as soon as it went 2-0, 66 minutes.
You could throw the argument the other way, couldn't you? And go, put your feet up for 9 days, mate.
Yeah, I don't know. I think
let's put it a different way then, and we can speculate. And it is only speculation because we don't know. But whose decision do you think it was that Ronaldo played?
Oh, Ronaldo's.
Okay,
yeah,
right.
that's
a
yeah,
key point.
Yeah.
My massive takeaway from this is, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but Portugal played with wing backs last night.
Yeah,
am I right in saying that? Yeah,
correct.
Dallo and Pedro Neto as a wing back.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Didn't
wicked.
Look great from Neto.
They changed to a back four against Turkey. We hated the back three structure against the Czechs. Played back four against Turkey. Admittedly, some of Turkey's defending massively helped Portugal out, but then they've gone back to a back three again. And I'm going to guess not so good, guys.
No, but again, it's hard to read too much into it because of how much of a rotated team it is, right? So it's like having said that, like I said, they did still create chances. Like, let me get the stats up. I'd love to see what they're.
I had like 4 big chances, XG over 2, 22 shots overall.
Yeah, it definitely felt like that.
Quite clearly on a different day, they win the game. And obviously, Georgia scoring so early through, yes, comical pass from Silva, better than any pass any England players played in any game so far this tournament. Clearly, they've given themselves something to massively fight for. But as you rightly said as well, they had their moments on a counter as well.
They did, yeah. So yeah, I wonder if he's gearing up for the knockouts then in terms of sticking with the wingback system.
One key thing on Portugal, and I don't know what the solution is for those who want to go and buy fantasy, because I think it will still be, Ronaldo, Fernandez, probably a defensive one, it's Pepe, Cancelo, the keeper, whatever. It's all fine. But they play Slovenia, who we just played. Now, Slovenia has shown across 3 games, difficult team to beat, even taking how late Serbia's equaliser was against them. As discussed both before the Slovenia game for us and afterwards, they play a system unlike anybody else in this tournament. They are hard to break down. The midfield 4 goes very, very narrow. They are difficult to play through. They will frustrate. They always have an out because they've got 2 up top at the top end of the pitch. And in Benjamin Sesko, they have a player who's got huge potential. But the big thing for me is that they're playing Frankfurt.
Why is that?
So Frankfurt's where England played Denmark. And I certainly didn't want to use the pitch as an excuse against Denmark, because Denmark played on the pitch as well, right? And England just frankly weren't good enough. But I think we could all probably agree that the way that pitch cut up after the rain that it had had in Germany earlier in the week wasn't good.
Yeah.
Yesterday, that pitch looked bone dry. Then it battered it down during the game again. Now, Portugal were much better technically than England, but it might not help them on Monday night. You might find it's a slow game of football.
Mm.
That might work in their favour. It might not, but
I was
it's
going to
something to
say,
be aware
yeah,
of.
their first game, they were moving it around very slowly.
England playing Gelsenkirchen on Sunday, which is where England played the first game against Serbia. And there have been some problems genuinely with a few pitches at this tournament. That, as far as I'm aware, is not one of them.
Okay.
So we won't be sitting here on Monday going, there's an excuse for us.
No.
But we might sit here next Tuesday and go, that was a tough watch for Portugal. It's all I'm saying is it's not going to be the standard of pitch you would expect at a European Championship.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good point to think
I
of.
think it's the last game at that stadium.
Sure.
Turkey, Czech Republic. So, dear. So the red card from Anthony Barak, I haven't really got a lot of sympathy with it. I know a lot of people said it was really harsh. The first yellow card, I don't know if you've seen it, Clates.
I've not seen it, no.
Right. It's a yellow card all day long. It's a pull and then a tug. You know, it's the lot. It's the standard definite pullback yellow card, even though it's at the other end of the pitch. He's tried to pull him, he's failed. Then he's pulled him back by the shirt as well. It's a definite yellow card, no question. Now, the second one, he ends up kind of lunging, not with intent to hurt the player, but you're on a yellow card each 20 minutes in. Maybe don't do it, mate. And he's obviously landed on top of the Turkish player's foot. And I think subject to the referee you're going to get, you're liable under that to get done as a yellow card because it's that action of coming down. We know that's accidental most of the time where you stand on someone's foot, but don't put yourself in a position to do it. And you see them challenges getting punished more and more and more. It's like you stand on someone's foot. It's almost like you're getting booked half the time now.
Yeah.
So I don't
but
have
you're
a
right.
huge
It's just
problem with it.
not giving the referee a decision to make, right? Especially 20 minutes in.
Don't make the tackle, mate.
Yeah.
Halfway line, 20 minutes in. Yeah. But it was difficult not to feel sorry for the Czechs, therefore, then under the circumstance, because they did pretty well to keep Turkey at bay. Obviously, Turkey have had a lot of the ball, that goes without saying. But in terms of chance on the match, go and look at your big chances from the game, mate. 4 for the Czechs, 1 for Turkey.
No way.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, Turkey are vulnerable. And it was a shame not to see quite how vulnerable they would have maybe been if it had stayed as 11v11.
Sure.
Because I think the Czechs are a powerful team. I think what I saw in the 2 games, particularly against Portugal, that despite obviously ceding territory quite a lot, they were better with it than perhaps I'd expected they would have been. I thought Soufal was really good last night, by the way. There's 2 references for Suja on this podcast. All right, not a terrible team. And if they'd have got through last night, Turkey would have needed to be slapping themselves. They're on the edge.
Were they on the verge of going through before the last minute goal? Or no?
No. So Turkey would have gone through anyway. So the Czechs had to win the game.
Oh, okay.
And the credit to the Czechs as well is, unlike a few other teams who will remain nameless this week, because I might have already mentioned them once or twice on this podcast, the Czechs went for it. They really, really went for it. They can go out with, I don't want to say, you don't go out to a group and Georgia qualify with like your head held high, but on last night, they can look back and go, we couldn't have given that much more. Turkey was convinced from the Georgia game in game 1 had major fundamental issues defensively in terms of the amount of chances they were going to give up. I saw nothing different in the Portugal game. In fact, I think if Portugal had wanted to, they'd have beat Turkey by more than 3. And last night, despite playing for 70 minutes against 10 men, they've still give up 4 big chances in that football match. Austria will create against them.
I'm looking forward to that game. Yeah.
The fact that Calhanoglu is not going to play as well is a serious blow. They're a nice team to watch, Turkey, despite being quite critical. They're They always strike as like a technical nation. We had a good team around the kind of the early 2000s, and England had them two real battles qualifying
Oh, the
against them in
Tyrann,
Euro
yeah.
2004. They were a good team, man. Really, really good technical football team. And it feels like they play quite a lot without a forward. So they can create their own moments of domination. They've got good players. We know that with Gula. I like Yilmaz, who really drifts out onto the right flank with his bleach blonde hair. It's a good, tidy player. Calhanoglu is really important to them, though. And that's a sizable miss for that game against Austria because a lot of what happens on that pitch goes through him.
Yeah.
And Austria are going to go and press. There's no doubt about that. It will help Austria. It's 8 o'clock kickoff as well. That's also a notable, by the way, I think for Austria, that they're on their path. 8 o'clock's all the way,
Oh, okay.
which
Do you think
with
that
the
makes any difference?
well, I think it possibly does a little bit. You know, small margins, admittedly, but you're going to get a hotter temperature at 5 o'clock and 8 o'clock, aren't you?
True. Yeah.
You're more likely to be in the shade at least
Yeah.
at 8 o'clock, so that will help them. Yeah, Calhanoglu is a massive miss. That goal is awesome, by the way. Absolutely awesome. So Stanic was critical of after the Portugal game, makes an incredible save. And then Blessing manages to, I think, pop his shoulder in the
Oh,
process of when he lands, bit a la Wham to Nick Pope. It might even
okay.
be worse. He might have like fractured something quite badly, possibly. But obviously, he's trying to get up. And as he's tried to get up, he's got no. So the hand you want to put
Oh,
your weight on to get up. Well, no, he doesn't. It's not ugly like that. But he knows he can't put the weight on the hand that he wants to get up because he knows he's done it.
yeah.
So he gets up really awkwardly. And as Turkey win it back on the edge of the box and he gets fed towards Kalnok, you see the poor fella, he's got his one good arm in the air trying to put his hand up. Calhanoglu hits this shot, which is it's like a PlayStation goal.
Oh,
Because
no.
now what I mean by that is anybody else at that angle receiving that pass whips it into the far corner, like a la Grosso
Yeah.
2006 against Germany. You know the goal I mean, just whip
Yeah,
it
yeah.
into that far corner. He's hit across this thing and through it like an arrow as the ball's coming towards him at the same time. It's
Nice.
it's the sort of goal you only really score on like a PlayStation because
Yeah.
you won't hit it that perfectly. Awesome finish. Your poor fellow in goal who's got one arm in the air has now got to try and save this brilliant shot that's been hit. So all he can think to do is stick his leg out, and it
Oh,
goes right in the bottom corner. He's got no chance. Poor fella does the splits as he does it. He's got one bad arm.
10
Now
out of
he's
10
done the
for effort.
splits.
Yeah.
He's ended up with his head between his lap. Poor fella. But yeah, Turkey, not great.
No. Do you
Not
think
great.
if this
I
was
think they're a nice
11v11,
team to watch, by the way. But just anyone's going to create chances against them. I think.
if this was 11v11 for 90, do you think the Czechs would have won?
Yeah, quite possibly.
Wow.
Yeah, because I think I don't know how Turkey would have dealt with the pressure moments there, holding on to a draw against the 11. On what I watched last night, I would suggest, yeah, if the Czechs had the extra body,
Yeah.
then yeah, there's every chance they would have won last night. And under that circumstance, because Georgia won, Turkey would be out.
Would you say this was the only group where people would have predicted the top two correctly? Portugal, Turkey? I
Yeah, I
feel like
mean, we
that.
thought Turkey would finish.
Yeah.
I think most of us did. And actually, the Czechs were better than I thought they were on what
Yeah.
I've watched
Same, actually.
across the game. I'm pretty unlucky. I mean, lost really late to Portugal. The circumstance yesterday with a red card, all 26 odd shots, I think, against Georgia in match day 2. You know, they could have comfortably been, they could have easily finished on like 5 points, similar total to England from this group. So I mean, they've been a bit unlucky. What I would say about Turkey, despite concerns about them, I would bet that's one of the, I wouldn't be surprised if that's the most enjoyable game in the last 16, Austria against Turkey.
I know what you mean. I'm genuinely very excited to watch that game and the Swiss Italy one.
England will be out by then because we'll have lost to Slovakia 2 days earlier. So we might be in the right frame of mind to start watching football again.
Yeah, possibly. Just enjoy it for what it is.
Clates, pleasure. Thank you very much. We're going to
Thank you,
talk about
sir.
Iceland on Patreon later today. If you want to
Why do
support the
we do
show,
this?
it's www.patreon.com/Planet FPL. And Clayton mentioned near the start as well. We'll also be covering intended wildcard teams. On the differential show makes a return tomorrow, and we'll preview all 8 games in a little bit more detail. When are we going to ask you stuff, James? Yeah, Ask James live stream for you tomorrow afternoon, scheduled for o'clock UK time. Might move to 4, but scheduled for 3 o'clock UK time. So I'm very much open to questions on Euro fantasy, etc. Then, which leads me to say thanks again to Clates. Enjoy a bit of break from the football, everyone. Cue music, please, man child.